Hey, what's up, everybody? So today, Alicia said she wanted to go live on Instagram. So since I've been traveling this week and we are in separate cities, I thought I would pop in and say hi to everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. And she should come in a minute. When she comes in, I think I hope she'll request to come into the conversation. How's everybody doing today? What's on your mind? What's popping? What's popping? I did a podcast just now in case you didn't get a chance to see it, and it was a kind of an analysis of this lawsuit. Let's see, somebody said wife, not girlfriend. Yeah, I know. You know that song, just me and my girlfriend. That's how I was kind of thinking. But give me 1 second here. All right, so here she is. Yeah, so I'm actually in Atlanta this week. I'm giving another speech this weekend too.
Hey, how you
Hey babe, what's
doing?
going on? Doing good, doing good. Did somebody say
That's
clean
boy.
coochie beats?
That's my guy there.
that, that's somebody's
Yeah.
Instagram name, clean
Oh,
coochie beats.
he's great. He comes in with me and Jasmine on Tuesday. Mm.
What? Clean coochie beats?
Wait, is it
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
it's a
person.
guy.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Anyway, I think that's who.
Oh, okay. By the way, if y'all have a question or something, y'all want to ask us a question, feel free to ask a question in the chat. So what are you up to,
Man,
babe? You
I'm in
doing
the
your
middle.
detox?
Okay, so tomorrow will be 2 weeks of detox. 2 weeks. So I'm doing this detox and I'm supposed to only consume raw food, vegan. It's a raw vegan juice detox. And so tomorrow will be week 2. And so I'm doing it until next Friday. So I do this detox because I'm doing a spiritual retreat. Boyce, you're invited to come in Los
You talking about
Angeles.
LA? Oh yeah, I'm gonna go with you to LA. I don't know if I want to do the retreat
Okay.
though.
Eventually, I feel like it's in your
But
future. You might end up doing it with us. So anyway, before I do my spiritual retreat, I always like to detox beforehand. It's your sister that got me into this, by the way. Shout out to Tangi, Dr. Tangi. She got me all into it. I need a
right. I woke up today. I was supposed to go work out myself. I haven't done it yet. And I don't have it's funny you reached out to me about going live, and normally I have meetings and stuff. But
really.
today I
I
was
didn't
like,
want to
okay.
mess up your I don't want to mess up your business. You got important, pressing things to talk
Nah,
about.
nah, I woke up, one thing I was waking up checking out was I read an article about Elon Musk having like some interesting financial problems with Twitter. Twitter may go bankrupt because there's a lot of debt that's owed, and he may miss an interest payment. And it's interesting. I think I'm gonna do an analysis of that a little bit later because I think it's worth kind of noticing and paying
I don't
attention
get the
to.
impression that Elon Musk is really fueled by money anymore. I almost feel like he has this bigger quest in life that's larger than money. It's out of this world. That's the impression I get from Elon Musk. He's principled. Like the decisions he makes and the things he doesn't even factor in income or is this going to be lucrative. He's definitely not one of those businessmen who think about like the bottom line. My impression of Elon
Right.
Musk. Y'all see I'm making, okay. I'm cutting up lemon. So it's lemon. I don't have all the ingredients, boys.
Well,
I'm
then
just
how are
pulling
you
it
gonna make it
together.
if
I
you don't
got
have the ingredients?
lemons. I have carrots, a lot of apples, and a red onion. So I got to juice a red onion.
Why don't you get Tracy to help you do your juice?
It's a delicate sort of thing. And then I have spinach. So I got to juice the spinach. And I have parsley. You know, it's really kind of like I'm experimenting with little stuff. So I'm not quite, I can't ask her, Tracy's our helper. I can't ask her to help me with stuff if I'm not quite clear on it myself. Wait, Juice Pressy is on. Juiced Up Reese.
No,
I see her on here. I'm juicing lemons. I wish I had her. I wish I should have. You know what I should have done is told her the stuff I needed and then had her just send it to me, and then that'd be so much easier. Because it takes me forever to cut this fruit and those vegetables up, and then I have to rinse them out because I got to get the pesticides off of it, and then I have to juice it. And I got this big towel. Look at this, boys. Look at what I had. How do I flip this around? Look at this.
Juice the pea?
I got this big towel here because I realized that when you juice, everything is a mess. Like these juicers, people try to say these juicers are like good for you, but it turns your whole kitchen into something really sticky. And you know I don't like sticky kitchens. So it is kind of like
AJ's mom is here. AJ.
Who's AJ? AJ from down the street.
AJ's the little boy down the street.
Oh gosh.
How'd you go forget about AJ and AJ's mom?
AJ's mom. That's a lovely family too.
Tell your husband to call me. He's a cool dude.
Man.
Nate. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while, but I love talking to that guy. We had so much fun on the porch. Very good family and very nice people.
Yeah,
it's nice to be around nice people.
She's somebody.
Yeah, he needs to come down to the house.
She's somebody who would do a detox with me because it's lonely, and then I have to cook regular food for the kids. So I'm cooking I cooked curry chicken yesterday with rice. And I'm sitting here drinking. This is my dinner. This is my breakfast. I'm drinking juice, watching them eat up. It's hard. It's easier to detox when everybody around you is detoxing, but they're eating like cookies and candy. And I'm doing all I can to not break my diet.
I think that's great. Well, I think that's why you look so great, you know, even as you're approaching 50. I mean, I think it's, you know, you've always been beautiful, but, you know, you look better than a lot of 28-year-olds I see, you know. So I applaud that. I admire that. You know, I think people don't know when you get over like 40, if you're not working consistently to take care of your body, it's just, that shit's gonna fall straight apart.
I used to be able,
you know
what I used to eat, boys, when I was in high school? Didn't gain 1 pound. We would take cookies, like chocolate chip cookies, and we would put it in the microwave for like 10 seconds so it can get nice and moist. You know those big cookies you get from Aldi's? We used to eat those. And then I would get Doritos and, you know, Cheese Whiz. We would take Doritos and put Cheese Whiz on top of it and eat them with the cookie in a big thing of Pepsi. I used to eat that. That would be my dinner. And then to top it off, I had a cousin that worked at McDonald's down the street in Gary, and I was like, oh, we can go and get us a quarter pounder with cheese, discounted, and that would be my dinner. And I wouldn't gain 1 pound. Sorry.
That's hilarious.
I'm going to go down when I'm done juicing. I'm going to go down and get on the Peloton, and then I'm going to get dressed. I got to actually teach a class in person today, boys.
Wow, so you got to go back to campus. How does that feel?
You know, I understand, like we have international students in our program. So we get a lot of students from Saudi Arabia. And in order for them to keep their scholarship, they have to offer so many courses online, in person. So they're like, we're not paying for it. And that makes sense, right? countries are like, we're not paying for people to come to the United States to get their education if all their classes are online. Like, what's the point? So there's so many classes that we have to teach as a department in our master's program in social work. We have to teach them in person. So I understand that, and that's the reason. Saudi Arabian students are phenomenal, actually, in class, because they just bring a different perspective, and I just like them. You know, they're just fun. And so it's interesting to see them come to the United States and just their whole like adjustment process. So anyway, it's really great. So there's a give and take. The great part about it is that we get to have this cultural exchange in the classroom, which is so important for social workers. The bad part about it is that I have to put pants on and go to campus and teach a class, but whatever.
So the pandemic kind of spoiled everybody. You know, and by the way, if anybody has a question, you can put your question there. I saw somebody mention that they had had a spoken word poem they wanted to DM me. I'm sure you can send it to me. I'll be happy to see it. And by the way, Juiced Up Reese says you shouldn't eat the core of the apple because it's poisonous. She said you gotta make sure you core out the apples when you put them in. Oh, and I am Hope the Millionaire.
Yeah.
Can you post?
Well, I got this detox from your convention, Boyce. The guy, Dr. Prince or whatever, Eric Prince. He has this detox. It's a 30-day raw plant-based detox, and you have to pay for it. So they didn't got money out of me. You got to pay for it, and he does these bio scans, and he told me all the things that was wrong with my body apparently, and then I got to do this 21-day raw. Everything is raw detox, and you got to juice. So today I got to do a green juice, which is not the best tasting. The red juice tastes delicious. It was like candy. Oh, Jess just joined. Hey, Jess. Anyway, Jess is my manager and cousin and stylist and everything. But anyway, so it has to be apples, celery sticks. I don't have celery, so I'm using carrots instead. Spinach, parsley, cucumber. I do have cucumber. And so that's what the juice is today. But I am using apples, and I like I'm adding my stuff. I personally like I like ginger. So I'm juicing ginger with it. I'm just putting my own, I guess I'm not really following his recipe so much. But anyway, so that's what I'm juicing. But I think it's making my skin glow or something. I don't know.
Well, I think you're glowing. I think you look great. You know what I can't wait for? Flex, Shanice's husband. He told us that the New Jack City play is going to come to Chicago in the spring, and he get us some tickets. I'd love to go see that. I think that's so cool.
I want to see a play. Oh, and you know, Tay Tay has a play coming up in the spring. I don't know the name of it, but I think it's like a compilation of a whole bunch of different popular movies from the 90s. And I think, yeah, so it's like a nod to the 90s. And she's playing Diane McCord from Say Anything, which, by the way, trivia boys, Say Anything. That's my favorite movie. Have you seen it, though?
No.
We have to watch it together. I don't know why that movie makes me cry. John Cusack, who's my favorite actor. He's from Chicago. Actually, John Cusack and Fran, my brother, they lived in the same building in Chicago. And every time I would go visit him, this is what my brother used to be a stockbroker, in case y'all don't know. So hearing about stocks all day is kind of familiar to me. But anyway, back in the day when he was a stockbroker, he lived in this loft apartment, and he was like, John Cusack lives here too. And we would get in the elevator, and I'd be like, oh, if I run into John Cusack. So he's one of my favorite actors because he was in Say Anything. I don't know why that movie made me cry, boys.
Wow.
What?
You know what's funny to me? Do you know that I think that there are 38-year-olds who were born in 1995? Is that right? Did I do the math right? That's not right. I did the math wrong. 38-year-olds who were born in 1985. 28-year-olds who were born in 1995. That's it.
That means, oh my gosh. So I graduated from college in 96. So my college degree is expensive. I love Say Anything. Isn't that just a great, someone's filming my movie. Have you seen, wait, Boyce, are you familiar with Peter Gabriel? Do you know him? He's a singer, but he sings this song called Your Eyes. Don't have me sing it on here. Anyway, it's a famous song because it's almost like guy meets girl, guy gets girl, guy loses girl, and then he gets her back. You know how, like, the formula for movies. But anyway, so he's trying to get her back, and it's the most romantic thing ever. And so he plays the Peter Gabriel song. It's a famous scene from that time. He plays the Peter Gabriel song on his boombox, and he's like in the grass right outside her window, and he's like playing the song for her and stuff.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Hey, I wanted to tell you, I didn't know that there was a question section in this chat. And so somebody put a question in the question section. Distinct Hope. So you can answer first. He says, what advice would you give to men who are nervous about getting married because of possible financial risk in divorce?
Can you read that
that's
again?
A good one. What advice would you give to men who are afraid of getting married because of the financial risk of divorce?
Your marriage is an investment, and there's always going to be the risk of getting divorced. It's always, I mean, that you go into it knowing that it's risky. That possibility is always there. So you just have to embrace that. You know, all those fears that you have in your head, all those scenarios are possible. So the very first way to gain control over yourself is to embrace these possibilities. However, you have to do things to minimize that particular outcome that you don't want, right? And so part of the ways to minimize is to you know, follow some of the basic criteria of what makes a nice, healthy, strong marriage. So I think there are like 11 elements for satisfaction in a marriage. And, you know, study those and understand what those are. I think some of it is fidelity is one of them. There's a bunch of, I don't have it in front of me, but, you know, there are different tactics. I think the best investment, of course, I'm biased, but the best investment in your marriage is to get, you know, of course, get marriage therapy to make sure you have a system in place in case there's some some differences you can't seem to overcome, which happens a lot. You know, so there's some insurances you could put in. It's so funny how people spend so much money on a wedding, and they spend what, $30,000 on the wedding, and they'll spend, oh my gosh, I don't know how much money on the honeymoon. They'll invest in all of these external things, but they won't. But you know, they won't spend anything on someone like me, and I don't even ask that much money. Boyce is telling me I need to raise my prices. Boyce is like, you're too cheap. You need to raise your prices. But people don't want to invest in their marriage, but they want to invest in a wedding. So yeah, I think I think coming to see a therapist is insurance. It's like paying insurance. And then, you know, what do you think, Boyce?
I think a lot of things about that question, you know, about the financial risk of marriage. I see a lot of guys who are nervous about it. And also, I personally think marriage has been changed to the point where it really favors women a lot more than men than it used to be. And I think a lot of men feel that. I just believe that. I believe that it's structured where the expectation expectations placed on some of these guys are so heavy that they're really concerned about, you know, messing things up. And I totally get that. So I think if you're not comfortable with it, you should not do it. I just really believe that you shouldn't do it unless you find a person or a situation that makes you feel comfortable making that move. And whether or not you feel comfortable making that move may vary depending on your age, who the person is, and your financial status. So I can, you know, I can only speak from my experience. I got married because I saw marriage growing up, and I saw it as an important institution within the family. I feel like kids are healthier in the context of marriage. And I grew up valuing that, valuing the sacrifices and the hard work necessary to maintain a marriage, because I saw my parents do it. But at the same time, my father was a person who stayed married to my mother 49 years, but he wouldn't be able to do that in today's day and age. Like today, because my father did cheat a lot. My father has made mistakes. My father has some of that so-called toxic masculinity. But my mother, you know, and my mother had her issues too. You know, she struggled with depression and some mental health challenges and all that. And they just stuck with each other because their mindset was, if we get married, we stay married, that's it. They didn't focus so much. They focused more so on staying married than they focused on always being happy. And now I think that there are, the paradigm has shifted. I think a lot of people expect to be happy all the time. And if they're not happy all the time, they divorce. So it's gotten more fragile, right? So ultimately, I guess I would just say that, you know, it's easier to get married if you have money, you know, because you don't care as much about money. So when I married my wife, I have money, she has some money. If we, you know, if we got a divorce, it'd be like, okay, here, you take yours, I'll take mine. We're both going to be okay. But if money's super scarce and super tight, maybe that's a different conversation. You know, also, I think I got married in my 40s. I got married at 45. That was a little later than I would have got married. I probably could have got married at maybe 35, but it didn't, you know, I was engaged. It didn't work out. So, you know, I got a chance to marry my wife at 45 or 46, whatever age I was. And that felt right for me. You know, I don't know if it would have felt right to get married at 25, you know. So I think that the trade-off is that marriage has gotten harder for people, for everybody. I feel as a man, I feel like it's gotten harder for men. But I think also because it's gotten harder for men, men have the right to say, you know, either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And if a person really wants to marry you, then they'll create the conditions under which you feel comfortable in that marriage. I think you have to feel safe financially, emotionally, and everything else. And I think it's a little bit harder if you're a young guy who's marrying a broke-ass gold digger who's only going to be with you if the money's right, or somebody who's emotionally unbalanced, all these other things. So factor all that stuff in, because it is an important investment. But just like any other investment, if you make the right investment and you nurture it properly, it can really benefit you. You know, like I'm better off. My life is easier because I have a partner than it would be if I was trying to do it all by myself. Like I've had times where, like, I'm going to stop talking, but like I traveled this week, I traveled for a whole week, you know, by myself, and I'm away from my wife. I miss my wife. I miss my family. I called her this morning. I said, babe, you know, sometimes I like to travel just to clear my head and decompress. But after about day 3, I'm like, you know what? I want to lay next to that lady back in Chicago and be in the house with these little annoying-ass kids, because that's the life I love. That's the life I'm used to. Now, would I have felt this way 20 years ago? I don't know. But I know that that's how I feel right now. So that's my honest assessment.
Yeah, I mean,
on that
talk
question.
about happiness, and it's so interesting. We got to do an actual proper podcast on this, about that happiness piece, because it's coming across as happiness, but that's not really what people are saying. They're talking about having a marriage to be fulfilling, and also having a marriage, like marriage is, they talk about marriages from back in the day, our grandparents' marriage, how it's evolved from how our marriage is now. And it was so interesting. So I can see if I can remember. So they were talking about how in the 1950s, marriage was all about love, because the previous generations, it was, right? So marriage was all about love. And then that was kind of problematic, because in the 1950s, it was really difficult to connect with your partner, because it was a lot of stay-home moms, and a lot of the fathers would go out into the workforce. So what was happening was that a lot of women were in the house doing their own thing, and a lot of men were at work all day doing their own thing. So it was really difficult for them to connect because the women couldn't relate to what their husbands were going through. I mean, this is, of course, traditional way of marriage. They couldn't relate to what their husbands were going through on a daily basis, and the men couldn't relate to what the women were going through. So it was a lot of problems there, right? And then they were saying later on, it became a little bit more about, is this marriage fulfilling for y'all? Remember the Oprah Winfrey, when Oprah Winfrey would do, she was like, let your authentic self come out, be who you want to be, and be your authentic self. And that sort of idea came across. So there was a lot of discontent in marriages then. So now for today, it turns out to be a little bit of both, what we're finding. First of all, marriage today, people are way more happier in marriages today than they were back when our parents. So I have to say our parents were miserable and they just dealt with it. They didn't go see a therapist and they didn't do all those things. So that's really, that's the difference. Now it's like these expectations in marriage are higher. However, because these expectations are higher, when you meet these expectations, marriage is 10 times more satisfying, 10 times more fulfilling, 10 times more gratifying today than it was back in the day. So we know better and we're doing better. Divorce rates are really low, by the way. So we got to get out of the 1980s thought, because Boyce, believe it or not, in the 80s, that's when the divorce rates spiked. Do you know what led to that? Do you know what led? Huh?
I'm waiting. No, I'm waiting for you to answer.
There was in California, there was legislation that came about in California that made a spike in divorce rates in the 80s. And it was no contest divorce became a convince him he needed to be married.
Uh-oh. You kept freezing. What you said? So the no contest divorce caused divorce
because it's like irreconcilable differences. You could put that down. It's like, it's not my fault. It's not his fault. We're not gonna say, oh, this person cheated on me or this person was mean to me. We could just say no contest divorce. It was irreconcilable differences. So because you can put that reason as a legitimate reason, more people started filing for divorce because it was way difficult. And do you know who was the person who initiated that legislation? Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan?
he was that reason why. So that's what made divorces spiked during that time, because it was just so much easier to get divorced and you don't have to worry about the shame and all of that, the public shame attached to it. And it's way more complex than just, I'm not just happy. So I really wish we need to get away from, I'm not happy and I don't respect marriage. Like people today don't respect marriage. Americans respect marriage way more than Europeans do. When they ask questions about what do you think about marriage and how important it is, like Americans respect marriage way more. So I mean, it's a complex thing, and there's people who dedicate their whole research career to trying to figure it out, and it's not what you would think it would be when you actually look at the data and what's going on. And as a matter of fact, income is so important. So, God, I'm remembering this whole book because I read yet another book for this year. I can't get away from it. But anyway, they were talking about how higher income people, divorce rates are really low. Among highly educated, high income individuals, they have really low divorce rates. And people with like lower SES, social economic status, have high divorce rates. And there's a bunch of different reasons why. And it's really interesting. If you want to hear why, I don't know. But anyway, it's just, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, wait, I gotta wash off my parsley. That's my parsley.
Okay. Well, while you wash your parsley, just know I just got a couple more minutes.
You got a meeting?
I gotta go get ready for a meeting.
Okay, so what they were
Yes.
saying was that, well, the myth was that lower income individuals are more likely to get married, more likely to get divorced. Some people were thinking that it was a values, like people with less income have less values, like they don't value marriage. But when they surveyed people based on income about their attitudes about marriage, people with low SES have very traditional views about marriage, actually. So it was really kind of counterintuitive to what you might think it would be. And then, and so that wasn't it. It had nothing to do with values, right? And actually, they said that people with lower income valued marriage way more than people with higher income. So we couldn't say that was the case. Long story short, what they found out was that people with lower incomes just was stressed out. They had a lot of stress. They were constantly worried about making ends meet. They didn't have a lot of time for each other. People with lower income were working shift hours, so they weren't even spending time together. Somebody's working 7 to 3 shift, another person's working a 3 to 7 shift. People were just tired and drawn out. They had a lot of stress on them. They're trying to pay the bills, raise the kids, and they had no free time. They had like very little free time and time to like, let's go on vacation and reconnect with each other. Like that wasn't even possible because they're trying to like make ends meet and the car breaks down. Oh my goodness, the car broke down. How are we going to pay for this? So it was a lot of economic pressure on couples that was putting a strain on their marriage. And that was the reason why divorce rates were so high. Anyway.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting assessment. You know, I don't know. I think of it like any other partnership. You know, it's you got to decide sort of whether or not that partnership really works for you. You know, I like being married most of the time, and you have your hard days and your easy days, and I respect the institution. And I will say that I felt a little guilty that I didn't get married early, like a lot of people that I knew did. You know, I had a girlfriend that begged me to marry her when I was 28, and I just was like, I don't really know if I want to do it, and also I don't know if it's going to be fun to do it with her, because I just, you know, it just wasn't. I thought about those things that these guys talk about, you know, in terms of just the risks and the challenges, and so I'm not really one who walks around just saying, oh, marriage is always perfect for everybody. But I think it can work under the right circumstances, just like a business partnership. You know, and sometimes partnerships are beneficial, sometimes they're not, but you shouldn't do it just to do it, you know. And so I encourage everybody, you know, go with your instinct, think it through carefully. Don't let anybody make the decision for you. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they let society pressure them into either doing it or not doing it. You know, whether you talk about those men that are very anti-marriage and anti-commitment, and then they get in your head and get you thinking that, you know, then you end up passing up a good woman because you're afraid of being seen as a simp or whatever the stupid stuff is that people say. But at the same time, you know, you can have people pressuring you into marriage, you know, just because you've been dating her for 2 years, you have to get married.
Well, you intentions very clear. You got to be able to say, I don't think I'm ready to get married right now. That's not, you know.
Right. Yeah. And then sometimes you're thinking about it. Sometimes you're like, I don't know. Let me process it. Right now, if somebody's spending 8 years trying to make a decision, then obviously that's an issue. But you know, but I really think that pressure is there on people, and so I encourage people to try their best to ignore the pressure. You know, it's your life. You got to live with it. Find your truth and be okay with that, whatever that looks like. So that's where I stand on it. So hey, babe, I gotta run.
It was nice talking to you. Thanks for going live on Instagram with me.
Yeah, I love you, and it's good to see everybody on here. Good to see all of y'all. And by the way, Alicia is she helped me create our Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business School. So we're working with therapists and experts to explore all the psychological barriers that keep us from building Black wealth. It is the first ever Black Financial Therapy Department ever that I've ever seen. And we meet every Sunday, actually, and we break down everything from like research-based breakdowns on everything from conflict resolution, financial anxiety, financial trauma, your relationship with money, your money attachment theory, like all kinds of stuff. So if that's your thing, feel free to hit the link in the bio, and there is a way to join the financial therapy with Dr. Alicia. It's really good stuff, and I think it will help you to achieve your goals, whatever they may be. And also Alicia's website. If everybody can follow Alicia, everybody's on my platform. Please follow her. She's got some good stuff, and her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. Coachingwithdralicia.com. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good night.